One of the most common questions I get asked is, hey, Azul, what is a good income in retirement? And so in today's video, I want to share with you some data so you can see as you're planning how you rank and how maybe you can move from one category to the next. So let's jump in. First, I want to share with you, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retired couple spends $60,000 a year, just a tad over that, like $25 over that. So let's call that $5,000 a month. So from that, you can get an idea of likely what the average retired couple is making as an income. I'll let you guess that, but let me go into some specific data. Again, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So the lowest 12% of households, retired households, where a primary resident is 65 or older, 12% of households, believe it or not, unfortunately, earn less than $15,000 a year, and those people are probably living on Social Security. The next 27%, so this will get us up to about 40% in total, the next 20% are making $15,000 to $30,000 a year. Again, I think that's people mostly living on Social Security. And then the final 13%, so this will get us up to about 50%. The next 13% make $30,000 to $40,000 a year. So you can see from that, about the bottom 50% is making $40,000 a year or less. And for retirement income, this would include things like if you have a pension, things like Social Security, things like if you have a dividend portfolio, the dividends that are paying you on that. For Social Security, you might be interested. The average Social Security check in the United States is $1,976. And so that's what the average is, and that changes every month. So that is the most recent data released by SSA.gov. But when we look at what's a good retirement income, the truth is, it depends. It depends on what your what your expenses are in retirement. So for somebody, they could be living very, very comfortably and be in that $40,000 a year category if their expenses are low, if their house is paid off. So about 80% of all 65-year-olds own their own home, and about 50% of those folks have their mortgage paid off, and the other 30% still have a mortgage. That is a good goal to strive for, which is to have your mortgage paid off, I think, 5 years before you retire, because none of us know, as we get older, the impact of getting laid off or losing our job for whatever reason, the impact of that, it can be a lot harder to find that next job. So setting up, not just paying off your mortgage, but trying to pay off as much as your debt as you can and strive to hit your financial goals 5 years early in case something unexpected happens. And then you have a choice. Maybe you retire early. Let's say you still have your job and you've reached your financial goals 5 years early. Well, that puts you in the driver's seat. You can decide, do I want to keep working these next 5 years? Maybe you do. Maybe that allows you to make more money in retirement and have a higher standard of living. And for some people, they may say, you know what? I'd rather have 5 more years of what I call the youth of your senior years, the time from when you're about 55 until you lose your health, which unfortunately for many of us is going to be much sooner than what we're planning on. Okay, let's keep going. So we talked about your expenses. I do want you to be careful. There's 2 expenses that retirees and people planning for retirement tend to underestimate. The first one is taxes, and the second one is healthcare expenses. And the reason people underestimate their healthcare expenses is because many people think, well, once I get on Medicare, then I don't have to worry about that. But I will put up at the end of the video the different categories that people spend their money on in retirement. And you'll see that healthcare cost actually goes up for households that are over 65 versus households that are under 65. So important to keep that in mind, which is why our decision on Medicare is so important. According to Fidelity, even with Medicare, the average 65-year-old is looking at $165,000 in healthcare expenses. That will include the Medicare premiums, the Medicare copays, the things that Medicare doesn't cover. So our decision on Medicare is critical, which is why I'm happy to partner in this video with Chapter. Chapter is a Medicare advisor that's always free to users like you and I. They have access to almost 25,000 plans nationwide, so they have access to a lot of plans. And importantly, they have pledged to give unbiased recommendations. So they're experts, but their expertise benefits you and me. So they're listening first, hearing what your situation is, and giving you the best recommendations for your specific situation. And how do I know this? I know this because of comments like this from viewers on previous videos. This person says, Chapter, pleasantly surprised. I called thinking they would just try to push hard on some Advantage plan. The guy did not. He actually said that original Medicare and a supplement were the best choices. Not sure how he, Chapter, makes any money off that advice, but their street cred sure goes up with me because I didn't get the expected car sales guy pitch. I don't want you to get the expected car sales guy pitch either, which is why I've partnered with Chapter. You can reach them at the link below or at the phone number up here. And this is sponsored, so you'll be supporting the channel as well. But there's no reason to go it alone when you're looking at your Medicare options. Okay, let's keep going. So retirement income. So we talked about the lower 50%, but if you were to ask a financial advisor, hey, what's a good retirement income? And mea culpa, I was a financial advisor for over 20 years. I'm now retired. But most of us would say a good income would probably be 75 to 85% of what you were making before you retired. And a great income would be 90% of that. But, that depends on how much you were making. That depends on what your expenses are. I want to share with you the facts, not a rule of thumb. So here's the facts, again, by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Before I get there, having the facts, having the data is really important. Having a plan is really important, which is why I think the gold standard is to work with a financial advisor and to not have rules of thumb. I know many of my viewers would prefer to do it themselves. You've spent 20, 30, 40 years building up your retirement nest egg and you'd like to be in control of it. If that's you, I urge you, don't use Google Sheets, don't use Excel. It just takes way too much time. Easy to make a mistake, and why there's really good, robust software where you can put in your income, you can put in your expenses, and you can find out what the income that's good for you and great for you by doing that plan. The software that I like is called Bolden. This video is not sponsored by Bolden. It's sponsored by Chapter, but I'm a fan of Bolden. And if you use the link below that's showing up now, you'll be supporting the channel. I am an affiliate. Okay, so here's the facts by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we talked about the bottom 50%, but let's talk about the next 25%, and then we'll talk about the top quartile. People making $40,000 to $50,000 a year in retirement. That puts you in the 50 to 65%, 50 to 60% range. That's 10% of people. And then 13% of people are making $50,000 to $70,000. So $70,000 or above is going to put you in the top quartile. And let's break that down. The next 10%, so the top quartile would start at 75 to 85%. They're making 70 to 100%. And almost the top 10% of all retirees, it's the top 15%, are making $100,000 or more. So that's probably the great income. And if you like this video, the next video of mine I think you should watch next is this one: 8 things that you should consider stop doing in your 50s and 60s in order to enjoy your journey to retirement. I'll see you in that video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.